You can look at the data that's returned if you want. All right, and I'll save this. Again, I'll do a file save as. And I'm going to call it sales by month. I'm going to put it in your dashboard. There's the extension IMX. That's my indicator data. All right, so you just kind of have to, if you don't put these in separate folders, if you're going to group all these dashboard components together, you're going to have to kind of, well, I guess you can use the type here. Actually, that's the best way to go. The type tells me it's indicator. All right, so I'm going to click on save. And then I'm going to X out of this tab by going up to the tab. You can also do a file close. But I'm going to just X out of the tab, and I'm back to my dashboard map. All right, so the next thing I want to do is define a range. And that's shown on page 3-20. So there is a button here for new range. So click on that. We're going to call this sales by month. Click on OK. All right. And what I want to do, I've got nothing so far. I've got nothing defined in this range. I'm going to add an interval. I'll click on the Add Interval button. And the interval I'm going to add is 600,000. Is that right? No. Yes, 600,000. 600, 1, 2, 3. You can put commas in there if you want. You don't have to. I'll click on OK, and my first interval shows up. And notice I actually get two. I get less than 600,000, and I get greater than or equal to 600,000. So you type in one number there, you get two intervals. It's going to cover everything from negative to positive infinity. So no data values would be left out. All right? Let's add another interval. We're going to add interval, and these do not have to be put in order. For instance, I'll skip one. I'll jump down to 9 million. 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Click on OK. And then I'll click Add Interval, and now I'll go backwards, and I'll type in 1 million.
The second one was 900,000? 9 million? 1 million.
Well, I'm looking on page 3-20, and you just want to type in all those numbers. So 600,000, 1 million, 4,500,000, and 9 million. And you can type them in any order. That's what I was just trying to show. If you type them out of order, they will get reordered for you automatically. All right? I'll add another interval, and it's going to be 4,500,000. Okay? So that should look like what you see. I'm going to grab this handle again and move this up a little bit so I can see all of it. All right, so that should look like page 3-20. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the code interval, and I'm going to change the first one to below target. I'm also going to, actually it's already below target. I'm going to have the second one be below target as well. The third one, the middle one, is going to be on target. Notice the color changes to yellow. And the last two are going to be above target. And I'm going to change the labels. The first label I'm going to change to just put the word way in front of there, way below target. And the last label I'm going to change, again, the same way. I'm going to put the word way, so it's way above target. And then I want to change the colors. And so I'm only going to change two colors. The first color I'm going to change to a dark red. And if you want to make it something different that really stands out, like turquoise or something, you can. And I'm going to change the last one to a dark green. Let me make it really dark. Now you'll notice that it doesn't, those end colors don't show up in this dynamic game. And there's a reason for that. The dynamic gauge will always show up proportionally, and what it'll do is it will show you, in this case, it'll show me everything between 600 and a million, everything between a million and 4.5 million, and then everything between 4.5 and 9 million for red, yellow, green. Now there's no way that that slider can possibly show me negative infinity to 600,000. You just can't display that. What would happen if this gauge had something that were below 600,000, that little pointer would be bottomed out, and the pointer would be this color, would be that dark red color. In addition, if I hovered over it, I would see the label way below target. All right. Now, I could change this and add more intervals. If I want this dark color to show up in the gauge, I add one more smaller interval, like everything between 0 and 600,000. You know, maybe I say, well, there's no way that I can have sales less than 0. Well, you know, maybe I'll add another interval, 0, and that way I'll have the dark red always show up there. And then here, maybe I'll say, well, there's no way I can have sales that are above, I don't know, 50 million. So maybe I'll put 50 million in as another interval, and that way that'll show up in the slide. Okay, but keep in mind that most gauges, this is a gauge, most gauges cannot represent negative or positive infinity. Now there are exceptions to that. For example, if I change the gauge to a traffic light, the traffic lights, notice there are 5 colors. It's showing me the yellow traffic light, but if something fell below 600,000, that last traffic light would be represented. So because this isn't actually proportional, it's just showing one light per interval, it can show me all colors. Okay?
So for the horizontal slider, what do the 2 arrows represent? The black one and the yellow one?
Well, this is just showing me that this particular gauge can support 2 pointers. And when you create the gauge, you decide what they represent. So one is, in this case, I only have total sales in my data, so I can't really have 2 pointers. But let's suppose I had total sales and total cases in the data, then one of them could represent total sales and the other could represent total cases. Or a lot of times what you want to do is you want to have one represent the target and one represent the actual. So you can see how close you are to target and actual. All right? All right, so that's all we're going to do here. I'm going to do a file save, or save as, I think. And we're going to also put this under dashboards, under Chocolate Enterprises, under dashboards. And you'll notice it doesn't show me any dashboards or any ranges in here. We are going to call it sales by month. I'll click on save, and now it's been saved. So I've got one range and 2 data sources saved. All right, so I'm going to X out of this tab. And the next thing, so I've done number 1, I've done number 2, now we're on to number 3. Number 3 is to create an indicator. All right, so I'm going to click on the new indicator button. And the indicator is going to kind of put everything together. I'm going to call this, actually I'm going to create 2 indicators, I think. I'm going to call this one sales by year and category. Spell that correctly. The display type I want is a stacked bar chart. Okay, there's a lot of different display types I can have here. All right, what I want, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the S. Will it jump down to? Yeah. So if you hit the S, it'll jump down to the S's, and you can keep hitting S, and eventually it should get down to stacked bar chart, which I'll then click on. All right, for the indicator data, I'm going to browse for that. And I'm going to select the first one, sales by category and year. and I'll click OK. Once I've got this looking like the top of page 3-23, I'll click on OK again. And now I established the property. So what I did there was I specified the data and the display type. The display type that I picked doesn't use a range. So I don't think anyway. Is there a range that I need to specify here? No. So since it doesn't use a range, I don't even need a range for this particular display type. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the width and height. I'm going to change the width and height to 400 and 530. Now one thing I want to show you here, let me collapse, I've got that little chevron there next to objects. I'm going to collapse that, give myself a little more room. And one thing I'll show you is when I stretch this, notice it changes the height and width. All right, so you can make this kind of about the size you think you want it, and then you can make smaller adjustments here. So I'm going to change this to 400, and then I'm going to change this one to 530, and that'll give me more exact and kind of an even numbered dimension. All right, what else do I want to change? I'm going to use my scroll bar over here. I'll scroll down to display settings. I don't want to do any sorting. Under display settings, I want the x-axis to be the year, so I'll use the drop down and select year. I want the stacked group to be category, so I'll change this to category. And I want the y-axis value, there's only really one left, right? And that's total sales. So now it shows me what I've got. That looks pretty good. All right. I'm going to scroll down a little bit more over on the right. I want the x-axis format to be none. I want the y-axis format to be currency. So I'll just select $123, 456.
It is already currency, right?
It is. But why take chances? I think it's already currency because, I selected euros, didn't I? I think it's already currency because that's the way it's defined in the information map. But again, I'm going to go ahead and select that just to make sure if they change the information map, the dashboard will still have dollars and commas, dollar signs and commas. All right, that's all I'm going to change here. I'm going to save this. So I can click on the save or the save as. I've got those two little floppy diskettes here. I've already named it, so I'm just going to click on save. I'll click on that little floppy, and it'll save it. No, actually, I guess I haven't specified where to save it. Okay, so when I clicked on that, it gets me where do I want it. I did name it sales by year and category, but I didn't specify the folder. So I'll double click on Chocolate Enterprises. I'll double click on dashboards, and I'll click on save. Okay? I'm going to create one more indicator. So let's X out of this one. I'll go up to the tab that says sales by year and category, and I'll close it. I'll X out of it. And I'll click on new indicator again. I'm going to create one more indicator. And assumedly, this one will use a range, because I hope we didn't just create that range for nothing. All right, so I'm going to click on new indicator. This one will be called sales by month. And I'm looking at the bottom of page 3-25. All right, so it'll be called sales by month. It's going to be a bar chart with reference lines. That's the second one in there, so I don't have to search for it. And the indicator data, I'm going to click on Browse. And it's going to be sales by month. Click on OK. And notice when I picked bar chart with reference lines as my display type, it automatically showed me did I need a range? So if the display type requires a range, then I'll get an input area for the range. If it doesn't, I won't. All right, so I'll browse for the range. And where did we put that? We put it under dashboards, and there it is. Only one in there. Now click on OK to grab that. All right, so that should look like the bottom of page 3-25. When you get that, click on OK. All right, we're back here. I want to specify the dimensions, 375 by 235, and I'm looking on page 3-26. So we'll change this to 375. We'll change the height to 235.